What if the only thing standing between you as a mom and the life that God has called you to live, the life that God has prepared you by sending you here on earth, are the stories, the lies you tell yourself? What if it's the doubt you've been walking around with as a mom? Today, we are going to learn how we can break free from our self doubt, because self doubt is one of the things that affect a lot of us as moms. So, today, we are going to learn what is self doubt, what are the challenges we have around self doubt, and how can we work our way out of self doubt. Now, self doubt is lack of confidence in our abilities as moms. When you start to lose confidence in yourself, when you start to lose confidence in your abilities, that is self doubt creeping in. Self doubt is when you start to lose confidence in your decisions. When you lose confidence in your worth, you don't feel you're worthy enough. When you constantly are faced with fear, maybe the fear of failure, that is self doubt creeping in. When you constantly second guess yourself as a mom, it is part of self doubt as well. When you constantly find it difficult to make a decision, you constantly hesitate to make a decision, you're always dragging your feet, that is self doubt in there. Now, we're going to learn what are some of the aspects of self doubt when you constantly self sabotage yourself. That is, you undermine your own goals, you undermine your talents, your gifts, your blessings as a mom. That is one aspect of self doubt. When you constantly procrastinate, most of us are on this table. We constantly procrastinate. Okay, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it later, and you end up not doing it. That is part of self doubt. When you delay actions, when you delay things you are meant to do, and when you're constantly indecisive, you want to make a decision, but you don't know, oh, should I? Should I not make this decision? You're in that position where you cannot make any decision. And somehow it makes you to be stuck, it makes you not to make progress or not to move ahead. Those are some of the aspects of self doubt, and some of the ways we get, some of the causes of self that could be part of probably our growing up, probably your childhood experience as a mom, maybe the experiences you had, the way you were raised as a mom, probably emotionally you did not feel okay, you were connected emotionally. It could be some of the reasons or some of the causes of self-doubt. Another cause of self-doubt could be our fears as moms, the fears we have, the things we constantly say to ourselves, the things we constantly, speak to ourselves on a daily basis. Those are some of the causes, some of the reasons why we walk around doubting ourselves as moms. And the truth is that self doubt comes in different ways. In our daily lives, we could see self doubt playing out. We could see ourselves doubting ourselves in different aspects. For example, as a mom, when you refuse to go for that promotion, when you refuse to go for that, maybe a higher qualification or a higher job, or in your field of study, when you refuse to go for something higher that is going to be of benefit to you, when you just tell yourself, oh, I'm not qualified, I am not worthy, I don't think I've met the requirement, that is also self-doubt in there. When you constantly overthink your decision, you want to make a decision, but you're like dragging your feet and asking yourself, oh my God, am I making the right decision or am I making the wrong decision? You overthink it to the point you're not moving forward. That is self doubt in there playing out. When you constantly need reassurance from others, you need to make a decision, but you need someone else to reassure you and tell you, oh, it is okay, it is not okay. That is self doubt playing out. And finally, when you constantly compare yourself, your accomplishments with others, that is also some of the ways we doubt ourselves in our daily activities as moms. What are some of the problems we have around self doubt? Since we know self doubt is not something, it's not a place we should find ourselves, why do we find it difficult to step away from that place? Number one, fear of failure. Most of us are scared of failing. Most of us are scared of failing to the point we don't want to try. We drag our feet to the point that we're not making progress. But as a mom, you must learn to understand that failure is not the end. In fact, failure is an opportunity to learn how best to make a decision next time. Like my coach will always say, failure is first attempt in learning. So if you're listening to me and you're constantly scared of, oh, I'm going to fail, learn to have a different perspective of what failure is. Learn to see failure as an opportunity for you to learn to make a better choice or a better decision later on. Most of us constantly have this feeling of we're not worthy, you're not enough. And when you feel you're not enough, you start to doubt yourself. You start to doubt your abilities. Those things you know you can do. You start to second guess yourself. Oh, am I sure I can do this? Am I sure? Is this correct? Is this correct? If you constantly feel you are not enough, you need to retrace yourself back to your source, back to your roots, back to your identity, which is God. Most of us constantly stay frozen. We are comfortable in our comfort zone. We just stay in that place where we are just comfortable. You know, you're supposed to make progress. You know, you're supposed to do something, but because you're scared of failure, you don't know what people are going to say. You are rather just sit down in that place where you're comfortable. And after a while, you start to doubt yourself. When you sit in that comfortable zone, you start to doubt your abilities. You start to doubt yourself because you're in this position where you're not growing, you're not improving. You start to doubt yourself. You start to doubt what you can do. Most of us allow past mistakes define us. When you constantly allow past mistakes define you, you will find yourself in that space where you're doubting yourself. So if you're in that space where you're always thinking of your mistake, you've made errors, you've made mistakes, I'm here to tell you that you need to let go of those mistakes and focus on the future. Focus of what is ahead of you. Because when you constantly think of those mistakes will somehow define the choices you're making in the now. Another thing most of us do is that we constantly wait for the perfect time. When you constantly wait for the perfect time as a mom, you might find yourself waiting for too long to the point that self doubt is going to creep in. You start to doubt yourself because you've waited for so long and you're in that position where you're now okay at the end. You're now doubting yourself, you're not moving forward. So, in practical ways, what are some of the things we can do to break free from self doubt? Number one, we must replace our fears with our truths, with the truth in the Word of God, with the truth in the Bible. What are those fears you have? What are those things that scare you the most? What are those things you're scared of venturing into? You know, this thing is of great benefit to you, but you're just scared of entering, you're scared of starting. Learn to replace your fears with the truth in the Word of God, which is the Bible. Another thing we need to do to break free from self doubt is to step out before we feel ready. Even when you don't feel ready to start to read that book, even when you don't feel ready to take that course, even when you don't feel ready to start that program, to enroll for that course, or to listen to a coach, just step out. Step out before you get ready because when you wait to get ready, you might wait for too long. Another thing we can do to break free from self doubt is to embrace failure as growth. We must learn to see failure as growth. We must learn to have a different perspective of what failure is for us. We must learn to see failure as opportunity for us to grow, to learn, to make a better choice or a better decision next time. Another way we can break free from self doubt is to stop arguing, stop arguing with God whether you're adequate or not. Stop looking at yourself as if you're inadequate as a mom. Stop looking at yourself as if you're unworthy. I'm here to remind you that you're worthy, you are enough, you are whole. When God created you, even before He created you, He already made you enough. He already made you worthy. He said everything, including you, He created is good. You are a masterpiece. You are also a God. So stop feeling inadequate because you are worthy and you are enough. Another way we can break free from self doubt is to rely on God's strength, not ours. Most times we rely so much on our strength. Yes, it's very good to rely on our strength because we need to put in the work, but we must learn to always retrace ourselves back to our source, back to our roots, back to our identity, which is God. Then another thing we can do to break free from self-doubt is to choose boldness daily. Choose to be bold. Choose to take that decision. Choose to take that course of action. Choose to just do that thing, provided you know it is safe, it is the right thing for you to do. Don't wait for everyone to say a yes before you go ahead. Just step out in faith. Just the same way Peter in the Bible stepped out of the boat and started to walk on water towards Jesus. Then you must take one courageous step on a daily basis forward. Every day, ask yourself, how am I going to step out from this self doubt? One way you need to do it, in addition to what we've said, is to take courageous action on a daily basis. What are those things you doubt yourself about? Today, choose to take one step forward that is going to make you overcome that doubt. Now, let us take learn from the story in the Bible, the story of Esther. You know, Esther was afraid when she needed to speak for her people. Initially, she was afraid, but after a while, she stepped out. Anyway, she just did it. She had to do what she needed to do. And then we must remember, even while Esther did that, she was scared, but she prayed. She equipped herself before she went ahead to speak to her husband about her people. So we must learn to remember that courage isn't the absence of fear, but courage is you stepping out, you doing that thing that God has asked you to do despite your fears. So we must break free from fears. We must break free from our self doubt. Even when you don't feel ready, you must learn to trust God that God has made you ready at your own time. So the next level of yours is waiting for you. You don't need to wait for you to be perfect. You don't need to wait for everything to be all sorted out. You don't need to doubt yourself to the point you're not moving. Today, choose to step out in faith. Choose to step out in faith and be that woman, that masterpiece that God has called you to be, and venture into that project, into that goal, that dream of yours you've always wanted to do. Tell yourself no to self doubt, but I choose to step out in faith. Even when you're not perfect, remember the goal is not perfection, the goal is your process, your progress. The goal is for you to move. So thank you very much for joining me today. I believe you've got value for your time. My name is Chioma Odikolo. Thank you for joining me. Please share this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Confident Mom Academy. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at the Confident Mom Academy. Yes, thank you very much for joining me. Until I come your way next time, do have a great day and